Alright, I think everyone's watching this Mandalorian and Grogu trailer the same way right now, pausing the action, analysing Embo, debating the Hutts, trying to spot the main villain. And honestly, I think that's the decoy, because the real question isn't who is Din fighting, it's how the Empire fights back in an era where they can't just roll in, plant a flag, and call itself the government again. If the Imperial remnants show up loud, the galaxy reacts loud. The New Republic rallies, the Senate panics, systems push back, and suddenly the remnants are right back to being a target. So what if they don't come back through firepower? What if they come back through influence? Through proxies, deals, and underworld leverage that makes the galaxy unstable enough to start craving that order again.
Gangsters, war criminals.
That's why the cartel stuff in this trailer feels like more than flavor. Hutts, Rotta, quiet fear when people even mention them. This isn't just Din doing the side quest, this is the kind of mess you use to rebuild power without firing that first shot. Anyways, by the end of this video, I'm going to show you the strategy I think is hiding in plain sight here, why the Underworld might be the Remnant's sharpest weapon, and how this could connect to Thrawn's style of long game warfare in a way that changes what this movie actually sets up. Because if I'm right, this isn't just Star Wars coming back to the big screen, this is the first domino of the next galactic war. So strap in as we get into it. Before we jump in, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Drop some high points too if you can, as they've really been helping the channel out late. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get into it.
Strap in.
Now, the trailer's selling spectacle, but it's also quietly telling you what kind of story this is. And it starts with one big shift. Din doesn't come across as a lone bounty hunter anymore. He looks like someone the New Republic is actively counting on. Sigourney Weaver's character, Colonel Ward, lands the tone in a way that matters.
This isn't about revenge. It's about preventing another war.
That line is basically the New Republic admitting what they've been denying for too long. The Empire didn't disappear, it just learned how to speak quieter. And right after that, the trailer slams you into the opposite world. Din asks about the Hutts, and the response is instant shutdown. Like he just said something people don't even want to be associated with. That's not a cute Underworld nod, that's fear. And that's the sign the cartel isn't just around, it's a pressure point that makes normal people go silent. And here's the thing, if this is truly prevention, then what exactly does New Republic think is about to go down? And why does it feel like they're already too late to beat it? Because then you see the remnants presented as organized, bases, troops, coordination, not scattered leftovers. And when Embo shows up, it's not, hey, cool cameo, it's the story quietly telling you someone just hired a professional problem solver to throw into the equation too. So on the surface, you've got three lanes running at once: official New Republic pressure, underworld intimidation, and remnants moving like a secret network. And that combination is exactly where the tension starts tightening, because once you pull that thread, you realize the trailer isn't asking who's the villain, it's asking what kind of war is coming. And yeah, if the remnants were trying to rebuild the old way, this movie would look totally different. You'd see fleets, banners, conquest, the classic Empire flexing muscle. But what this trailer hints at is something way more dangerous for this point in the timeline. The kind of comeback that happens without the galaxy noticing until it's already too late. Because the New Republic can most likely handle a clear enemy. They can handle, there's an Imperial warlord here, go deal with him. What they can't handle is a threat that hides inside politics, crime, fear, that stuff that makes systems rot from the inside while everyone argues about procedure. And that's why the Hutts aren't the side dish here, they're the shortcut. If you want reach in a fractured galaxy, you don't need to control planets. You need to control credits, muscle, information, and the people who move through the cracks. That's the Underworld. Rotta being in the mix is a tell, because Rotta isn't just a Hutt in danger. He's legitimacy, he's the inheritance. He's the kind of piece that decides who the cartel actually follows when all the dust settles.
Impressive.
And we've already seen the Hutts operate like politicians when they're not at their peak. They test the waters, they back off when the board looks wrong, and they wait for a smarter angle. So if this movie is putting the Hutts and the remnants in the same orbit, the implication isn't Din fights criminals, it's that someone's trying to tilt the Underworld into the shape they want it. And Din's being dropped into the middle of it. And now we realize that the question isn't how does Din complete the mission, the next question is who stands to benefit the most if he doesn't. So yeah, here's the pivot that makes this feel bigger than a contained cartel adventure. If the remnants are moving through proxies and influence, This isn't just a clever idea, it's exactly the kind of approach you'd expect once a real strategist enters the picture again. Thrawn doesn't win by showing up and announcing himself. He wins by turning the board into a trap where every move you make helps him anyway.
The one thing she could not afford to lose today. Time.
And that matters because Thrawn isn't coming back to the Empire at full strength. He's coming back to a fractured network that needs to be unified without triggering an instant galaxy-wide response. So if you're Thrawn, looking at this era, what's the fastest way to rebuild that leverage without lighting a beacon that screams the Empire's back? You don't start with a fleet, you start with the bloodstream, like the routes, smuggling lanes, mercenary pipelines, bribery networks, fear. And that's why the Underworld layer in this trailer doesn't feel like set dressing. It feels like infrastructure. If the remnants can influence who controls the cartel, they don't just gain hired guns, they gain an ecosystem that can choke the New Republic quietly. And here's the uncomfortable part. What happens when the New Republic can't publicly admit what's happening? Because the moment they say we're involved in organizing a Hutt succession, the Senate turns into a months-long argument. That's where Din becomes the perfect piece here. Deniable, mobile, and he's able to go places official fleets can't.
It's a good deal and you know it.
Is that so?
So the twist isn't just Thrawn is back. The twist is that his return changes the method of the war. And if this is influence warfare, then the real danger isn't battle, it's going to be time, because if the cartel tips the wrong way before Din can move, you don't get a loud Imperial victory, you get a quiet one you can't undo. And if that's the game being played, then the heart of this movie isn't about who throws the first punch, it's about who controls the board when the punch finally lands. Now, if we take that influence warfare angle seriously, then the story starts snapping into place in a pretty nasty way. The remnants don't need to conquer worlds yet, as we've mentioned. They just need a win condition that makes conquest unnecessary later on. And that win condition looks a lot like controlling the Underworld's center of gravity at the exact moment the New Republic is too slow and too political to respond. Rotta's the hinge. If Rotta's compromised, discredited, or kept out of play in any kind of way, the cartel can be steered. If the cartel can be steered, the remnants inherit reach. Get the smugglers, the mercenaries, the intel, the rest of it. That's not a side advantage. That's the kind of leverage that makes the whole system wobble without a single Star Destroyer in orbit.
We must be cautious and show no sign of our true strength.
But here's the thing. If Din is the one being sent into the mess, then the mission isn't just beat the Hutts, it's change the succession outcome before it locks. And the reason you send Din is because the New Republic can't stand on a podium and admit they're terrified of what happens if the Underworld aligns with the remnants. But then you throw Embo into the equation and suddenly it feels less like Din versus the cartel and more like Din is the obstacle that needs removing from the table, because Din isn't just a capable fighter. He's now known as a disruptor who has a habit of turning scattered resistance into unified pushback. And that is the last thing someone like Thrawn wants when a plan relies on controlled chaos. So let me hit you with a scary version of the timeline. Din gets delayed, Rotta stays under control, the cartel tips behind the wrong leadership. The Underworld becomes the Remnants' amplifier, and once that infrastructure is in place, the New Republic doesn't get a clean war to fight. It gets 1,000 small crises it can't stamp out fast enough. And that leaves one unresolved thread hanging that changes how you read everything we've just said. What if this entire Rotta situation isn't the end goal at all, but the bait that forces the New Republic to expose how blind and how slow it really is? Because if that's true, then the real play isn't just winning the cartel, it's winning what comes after the cartel. But here's where it gets really interesting, because if the cartel is the lever, the real question becomes, what is that lever meant to move? If this is a Thrawn-style strategy, then Rotta and the Hutts aren't the prize, they're the setup, they're the chaos engine that lets the remnants test the New Republic's response time, fracture its authority, and make the galaxy feel less safe under democracy than it did under Order. Because the moment the Republic starts to look weak, systems are going to stop cooperating, trade gets riskier, worlds start cutting their own deals amongst them, and people start hiring their own protection. And the Underworld doesn't just thrive in that kind of environment, it becomes the thing holding the galaxy together in practice, even if it's corrupt as hell. But yeah, if the remnants can make the galaxy desperate enough for that stability, they don't need to announce an Empire reboot. They can let the galaxy invite stronger control.
Thrawn's return will herald in the re-emergence of our military.
So yeah, if Din fails here, he doesn't just lose a mission. He becomes the guy who watched the board tip while he was busy fighting the wrong fight. And that kind of failure is going to follow you. It turns you into a target, and it will almost certainly turn Grogu into a target. And it turns every simple job they'll do after that into a trap, because now you're not just dealing with criminals, you're dealing with this big organized network that now knows what you're capable of and wants you erased. So yeah, the real question to watch isn't who's the main villain, it's what does the Remnants endgame look like once the galaxy is messy enough that they can reshape it. So yeah, what I love about this trailer is that it's loud enough to sell you the big screen spectacle, but it's also quietly planting the kind of story mechanics that actually justify why this is a movie and not just another season on Disney+. And that's honestly got me really excited, because it means this era is finally starting to feel like it's moving forward. It's building towards something bigger rather than just spinning its wheels in side quests. And I'm genuinely hyped for the movie anyway, just on a simple level. Star Wars back on the big screen properly for the first time in 7 years, that hits different. I can't wait for the whole atmosphere again. The merch everywhere, trailers before other films, people actually talking about Star Wars in the mainstream like it's an event, not just something that drops on Disney Plus and gets debated for a week. So let me know what you think. Do you buy the idea that this is Thrawn launching early influence warfare, or do you think the Hutts and the cartel side is just a contained adventure plot? As always, drop your thoughts, theories, and wildest speculation down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our last video where we map out the entire theory in all its glory. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one, and may the Force be with you.